Hey, Coach, just first off, just give us a broad overview of this year's team. How does everybody look, and what are your current thoughts going into the year?
I feel good about our team. Of course, I like our talent. I like our experience so far because I think guys have worked hard. Even through COVID, I think the guys had good summers, even the ones that were at home, just working out, training. And I like where we are right now as a team. Experience help, especially if you learn from your past mistakes and that sort of thing. And I think we've grown as a team. But first day was a good day.
Gabe?
Yeah, Cuonzo, other than we know you're not going to play Kansas and you're probably going to play some SEC teams, what do you know, if anything, about a schedule or how it'll come together?
Well, I mean, we're still working to solidify or confirm our tournament in Orlando. So hopefully we have that done by the end of this week, because we're in the ballpark right now of the teams. Because again, as you guys know, a lot of teams got in and out of tournaments due to COVID, financial situations, uncertainty with COVID testing from various leagues. So right now we're still scheduled to play in Orlando. And just a matter of, again, solidifying teams. And we're still working toward our schedule as we speak. But I mean, even to this day, there's still so many moving targets right now. It really is. And I'm not to say that not to give names of teams, but there's so much uncertainty.
Mitch?
Hey, Cuonzo, we saw yesterday that it's looking likely that winter sport athletes will not have this year count against them from an eligibility standpoint. I'm curious first if you have any sort of insight as to the reasoning for that, and also does that change the way you go about anything just from a personnel standpoint or a playing time standpoint this season?
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I just think with the landscape of college sports, with the one-time transfer rule that'll probably pass here in the spring, that there's so many things that are going on. The name, image, and likeness. I just think you have to keep your head on the swivel, so to speak, as a program. You have to constantly move. You have to be ready to prepare for changes. But no, I don't, because I think with the uncertainty of COVID, with the NABC and the Men's Basketball Oversight Committee, just one of those deals. What happens if a team or prospects only have you got 25 games or 27 games scheduled, and then you have a prospect that only has an opportunity to play in 13 games? Is that fair to that young man or that young lady in those specific sports? So I think it's only right. I think we just have to make the necessary adjustments as coaches and as staffs when we get to April and May. If you have singers that want to return, because you have some that are going to live their lives, and you have some that might want to return, some that work toward getting my master's. So I think they're all individual bases. Now, it's not 100% that it'll pass, but I think it will, and I'm not sure if it'll be mandated that every university has to do it. So I think those are questions that still need to be answered.
Dave?
How's the health of this team, and has COVID impacted the guys at all? I mean, has anybody had it and gotten over it?
Well, we've had guys that had it. I guess respectfully saying without giving names. So we've certainly had guys that had it. But right now we're practicing and we're healthy and we're well as we speak today. So again, it's just, I would imagine as we get into season, it'll happen. The scary part, if you will, I mean, COVID is already scary within itself, but when you're competing and you're playing at a high level, and all of a sudden you lose 1 or 2, 3 key guys, now that puts you back, 14 plus days. That's a hard thing to deal with, and more than that, to say to a young man, go to practice, go to the dining area, then go home. I mean, that's hard for an 18 to 22-year-old guy to do. I mean, we just have to hope that our guys put themselves in the best position to prepare to win games, to take care of their bodies and do all those things. But again, now you're also talking about not having the opportunity, maybe going home for Christmas, because you want your guys to stay intact. So it's just a lot of things you deal when we take it one day at a time, but we prepare for anything.
Ben?
Cuonzo, how is practice physically different through COVID? I mean, are you guys having to go through different things throughout the practice? How is practice different because of maybe additional protocols?
I mean, outside, our staff has to wear masks on the court. So just getting used to talking with a mask, but we've had a chance to do it here. So that's still an adjustment for me to be able to communicate certain things. Our players don't have to wear masks. Now, I've talked to some programs where their players wear masks on the floor, and that would be really hard for me to do, to play with a mask on. But like we practice, what we try to do, like for example, preseason, normally NCAA says 2 days off. We really gave 3 days off just to transition back into it. Whatever anxiety, stress, mental issues each player that deals with, whatever levels, we want to respect that, to give 3 days off. So what we did, we would practice an hour 15, and we'd come back in the PM and just get shots up. So instead of taking 2 days off, we took 3 off. What we'll try to do up until the start of our season, we'll try to take 2 days off. Now, that one of those days off might just be film study, but nothing on the floor, just to give guys a chance to, again, ease into it. Because when you off, 6 months, that's a long time to be away from something you've been doing for so long. Then to get back in the thrust of it, to focus on online courses, whether some guys say they like going to class or not, but it's different to have all online courses. I'm used to being in the classroom, used to interacting with my fellow students. All that's an adjustment. I think we have to have a level of compassion as coaches to understand that this is different. So let's ease into it. I think the thing that helps us, we have experienced guys that have been a part of the program, so that helps. But just really one day at a time, and just making sure those guys do the right thing. And I think our administration do a great job of making sure we're testing all those things every day they come in and meet with the trainer. And we just go from there.
Sweetie.
Hey, Cuonzo, I remember over the summer you said, for better or for worse, guys were working out on their own, in terms of improvement. I guess who has kind of struck out to you, made strides throughout the summer and everything?
I think guys have gotten better. I mean, you can see X has gotten better. Tilly's gotten better. I mean, Tilly, just really the conditioning piece and all that, his energy, his focus, and he looks like a guy that's a senior in the college program. He looks like a guy that, when I played in college, you knew that guy was a senior because he looked and how he talks and how he moves. And that says a lot about the wisdom and the knowledge that he's gained over time. And again, like I said with X, but X is one of those guys that plays all the time. He's going to find a gym to play, and he's going to work on his game. He's going to do that all the time. You can see the improvements in his game. And again, Mark Smith works hard. Javon, those guys they're workers. I've been really impressed with Parker Brown up until today. I mean, I think he's been good. He's always had good legs on him. His body's filled out, so he's been impressive, knocking the 3 ball down. So he would probably be the one guy I'd say that has stood out the most in comparison to where he was. So I would say he'd be the one.
Colin.
Hey, Coach, I was just curious, with Mizzou Arena being a voting site this fall, just how instrumental were you and your guys, and then Coach Pinch and her program in getting that set up?
Well, I think it's more the administration, just making a commitment. That's what it was. I mean, this is a team, and we felt like there was an opportunity to have space to do that. We have the parking space, the proximity is great. No better place in Columbia to have an opportunity to vote. So why not? Because voting has been done on our campus, so why not having it in Missouri? The capacity takes care of itself. Our students can get involved with it. I think it's a great thing. And but it's more of an administration. It's a team. We work as a team to get things done.
Patrick.
Obviously, as your first year as a coach at Missouri, you had the opportunity to see Michael Porter Jr. really rehabbing. What was it like to watch him have so much success in the bubble this year after all the adversity he went through?
Not really surprised with his ability to score the ball, because he could score it. I mean, you saw it on the grassroots circuit, how he scored the ball. I've been around, guys like Michael Porter Jr., X Pinson, those guys play all the time. They have to find somewhere to play. They love to play basketball. I think Michael Porter Jr. is a guy that if he was not getting paid to play basketball, he'd find a place to play basketball because it's his passion, it's his life. You know, a lot of guys talk about being great players. A lot of guys talk about loving the game. He enjoys playing basketball. He like, for example, he came in Monday or last Thursday, Friday, came in, worked out. He and Jonte, and he was like, Coach, are the guys working out? Because he wanted to play some 5-on-5. And man, that's like, you just left the bubble. But that's what's in him. He loves to play basketball. It was just a shame for Mizzou fans that didn't get a chance to see the way he scores the ball at a high level. Because think about it, man, scoring at the NBA level at a high clip in just a matter of time once he figures out what Denver wants from him and playing on both ends of the floor. I mean, just he's a guy that can really score the ball, and he's a threat to score it every time down. That's what makes him dangerous.
Mitch?
Cuonzo, I'm curious, what were kind of some of your big emphasis areas or points of focus during the offseason or coming into practice with this team, just based off last year?
Well, we always meet with each individual guy about certain things, and then we're constantly talking throughout the spring and summer anyway. So it's just as a team, the biggest thing, and I might have mentioned this to you guys before, we are focused. The best thing is to make open threes. You know, you want to be able to make open threes. You want to be able to get transition lay. You want to get layups, open threes. You want to minimize your pull-ups because everybody's not a pull-up shooter. We might have 3 guys that are legitimate pull-up shooters. You want to limit your turnovers. You want to play defense at a high level without fouling because as we watch film, we took momentum from ourselves when we got fouls and being aggressive and sometimes over-aggressive. But after a while, it's not a very smart play when you consistently do those things. So just really for our team, just the sound things, taking care of the basketball, sharing the basketball, playing as hard as you can play. And just work on your individual game. Work on your individual skill because I've always been a coach. Whatever you want to do on the floor, you have to be able to do it now. It's not a case of not doing something and you want to do it in the game. You have to be better at doing it before the game. And just playing as a team. I think those are not to say our guys are selfish, but understanding that there's a tremendous amount of sacrifice when you want to be a great team. And there's a level of commitment that you have to be willing to give to your team to be successful. That's on and off the court.
Natalie?
Hey, Coach. Hope you've been doing well. Kind of, a big question for you. Back when things first got canceled, SEC tournament, you're there. Now you're coming here, first day of practice. What do you feel like you've learned about either your team, your guys, you as a coach throughout this time with everything we've been going through that you want to carry into the season, into these first few practices?
Oh, good question. I just think really what COVID did for me, and I think even for our players, you kind of get an opportunity to reflect on what's important. Because oftentimes you'll do certain things as a coach. You've been doing them for years because everything is moving so fast. Even in the off season, it's still a season because there's recruiting. Then there's a June and July, and then you maybe have 2 weeks here in August, but you still have guys on your campus in September. So there's never really a downtime where you have a month to completely get away, decompress. So for me, with COVID, look at a lot of things. We looked at statistical numbers, all those numbers, teams that I've had the past 10 years, just ups and downs, all the numbers you can think of. And then you realize, you say to yourself sometimes, why do you do some of the things? Because you've been doing it for so many years, or the guy you played for, he did that, or the guy you coached on, he did that. But does it help your team? Is it beneficial to today's game? How does it translate now? So you spend a lot of time talking about that. And more than anything, I spend a lot of time talking to NBA teams, just on spacing offense, transition offense, the flow of offense. What do they look for defensively? Because even though we take pride in playing defense, but what level? Even though we're a college team, I understand it. But when guys are trying to make that transition, what are subtle ways that we can improve in our program to help them in their transition? Because though it's still basketball and NBA and college, it's really 2 different games. The spacing, the understanding, defensive assignments, it's a different ball game. So just all those things that if we can make subtle tweaks in what we're doing to help them to grow and adjust. But it was fun just studying. It was the first time ever, because you go to coaching clinics, you speak at coaching clinics, and this is probably the first time you had a chance to talk consistently, talk to teams, build relationships, see it through, work on it, good, bad. But it's the simplicity in the game, really. When you watch NBA teams, it's the simplicity, but now it's a high level of skill. So we try to continue to improve our skill as much as possible. And sometimes you don't see it right away, but just, again, the things we talk about, having written down, the effort. We have to always have effort. We have to have togetherness. We have to do a great job of executing. We have to do a great job of playing with toughness. Good shot selection. Then the last thing is respect. Respect for the game, respect for my fellow teammates, respect for the officials, and just respect for having an opportunity of playing a sport on scholarship, to have an opportunity to get a degree and continue playing a sport that I love to play. Because at the end of the day, I'm ahead of the game if I walk away from playing this game with a degree. When you look at the average numbers of, regular students, on average of $35,000 student loans they have to pay back. So if I'm able to get a scholarship doing a game that I enjoy playing, getting a degree, being a successful student, then I'm ahead of the game. And those are the things in terms we try to talk to our guys about. You can't shy away from talking about education, because for some reason when I grew up, all my mom cared about was getting a degree. You go to college, you got a chance to get a degree. Well, now all of a sudden it seems as if the topic is trying to be an NBA player. I mean, the number's still the same. It's not as if there are 10,000 NBA jobs. It's still 450 of them. That hasn't changed. So just trying to get our guys to say, I'm not trying to discourage you from being an NBA player, but what I am saying is, if there's a plan B, your plan B you have to get an education, not just get into a class, but get an education and get into a degree program that you can have a successful life and a successful career. So those are the things you have to talk about. And if they don't want to hear it, then they're not a part. They don't need to be a part of this program. So I think we have to continue to stress education, because it's vital.
Dave.
Cuonzo, you've told us the story in the past about when you played in Italy and that it was small gyms, but they were packed. So I don't know if you're anticipating for playing in a gym that's going to be scarce or empty, or what that communication would be like. How do you anticipate that experience being different this season?
Oh man, it's just basketball. I think when you love to play the game, it doesn't matter. I think I had the most exciting times watching NBA games this year, just because it was basketball. You can't run, you can't hide. It's simply basketball, and the cream always rises to the top. And I think Miami Heat, just my 2 cents, I think Miami Heat was a very talented team. I don't think anybody would have said they were the most talented team. I don't think anybody would have said they would be in the finals. But I think what happened, because of the Miami Heat culture and their program, and how Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, who's done a tremendous job, how they operate as a program, they had a business-like approach in the bubble. They were locked and loaded because their focus levels throughout the season. And you might have some other programs, and I'm not saying any names, it's not about that, but there's a lot of flash and a lot of glamour. Then the meat and potato time in that bubble, because it's not exciting. Can't play in front of fans. So it's basketball. I mean, I grew up playing basketball in front of no fans. It's still the same thing. And I think when you guys see guys like Jimmy Butler, Crowder, those guys, it was just basketball. And that's why I think they were where they were. Again, they have a great culture in their program and all that, but it's just, man, you got fans in the gym or no fans. It's basketball, man. I mean, if you need fans, what are you doing playing the game? What are you doing playing it? Play the game. It's basketball. I mean, if COVID shuts it down, you can't play, then you can't play. But if it's simply basketball, then what are we doing? Let's play the game.
Dave Matter.
Cuonzo, the addition of Drew Buggs, how can that impact the roles of your guys in your backcourt?
I think it enhances us, because again, he does a great job of getting into the lane. He's a physical body, so if you hadn't seen him up close, it's more of his stature is like Drew Smith. I mean, same stature, strong, shifty, knows how to pass the ball. His percentages from three weren't great at Hawaii, but he's a guy that can make threes. But he's a guy that would rather pass the ball and get in the lane and make plays. He does a good job. He forces guys to run because he's willing. He's a very willing passer. And none like X and Drew, scoring is probably the second or third thing on his list. X and Drew are probably guys that are more built to score it like that. And then they're willing to pass the ball. But he's the guy that he wanted to pass and get guys involved. I mean, and they've been on the floor together. I mean, again, it's basketball, it's spacing, attacking ball screen, sharing the basketball, driving and getting in the lane, making sound decisions. And I enjoy him being around because he does a lot of good things, and he's a vocal guy. He talks to his guys. He's the guy we felt like we recruited right now. Yes.
Got time for a couple more. Karen. Karen, you're muted if you're asking.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now, Coach? Hello? Hello, hello? Can you hear me okay, guys? Oh, okay, sorry, Coach. Coach, your gut feeling, right down to the rawness in your heart, do you feel it's safe to play college basketball now in this COVID environment?
Man, Karen, why would you do me like that?
Because I care about you.
Well, if you care about me, it's a tough question. I think if we could play the game where there's no students on campus and our players, if they can live in the arena, go right to the dorm, back to the arena, I think that's the safest way. I think you look at our football program, I think we have to cancel a game because of Vandy's team. Those are real issues. And I don't know how we can ask 18 and 22-year-old young men and women to say, go to the arena and stay in the dorm. That's not the normal interaction of a college experience. I mean, on a Saturday, Friday, Saturday night, we're hanging out. That's what I'm used to, and that's normal. That's my college experience. You know, it's extremely tough, Karen. You know, we can talk off. I mean, we can talk all day long, but I just think it's a hard thing to do. It's so much uncertainty. I think it's unfair without question, because what happened, nobody would play the same level of games. So there's so much inconsistency. So how do you pick, 65, 69 teams for an 68 teams for an NCAA tournament? How do you do that? I don't know how you do with so much inconsistency. It's a hard deal. It really is. I mean, if we were in a bubble, which I don't think a bubble would be good for our guys, because just the mental stress, just hearing from the NBA teams, the stress of it. Now, they pulled it off and it was great, but just the anxiety, the stress, and being in that environment could be tough for young men and women. So, Karen, you got me on that one. I know I went around the track 3 or 4 times, but that's a tough one.
So is that your biggest challenge then this year?
No question. It's just because, again, I'm a father first. That's first and foremost. And I'm concerned with the well-being. That's why we didn't bring our guys back in June and July, because I didn't feel comfortable with it. I really didn't. And I still don't feel comfortable with it, but it's what we have to do. One of our players said, Coach, I don't want to play. I respect this decision because I care about their safety and well-being first and foremost. But here we are right now, and we will take one day at a time.
All right, last question, because we got to get rolling to the players. Gabe?
Cuonzo, you mentioned your team's experience earlier. Is that, I know it's important every year, but in a year like this where practice and everything's been so limited, do you think that's a little more valuable to have guys who have been in your system, have been around each other?
I think so. Guys that are hungry. But like I said to those guys, you gain experience over time. That's just because you're older. Doesn't mean you experience, but I think our guys are experienced and they're battle tested. They've seen a lot, they've been through a lot, just in injuries alone and making adjustments. So they've seen it all. So in a lot of ways, though they hadn't experienced COVID, they've experienced, bumps in the road in the program, making adjustments, dealing with a guy going down. How do you do that? So they've seen that part. And I think they're resilient enough to, whatever the next thing is, we'll do that. We don't have guys that complain and make excuses. We play the hand that we're dealt and we let the chips fall where they may.